So as I said, we are going to be going through a introductory training on Google AdWords and Google Analytics. So before we jump into both platforms, I'm going to give you just a brief introduction about me. I'm Rachel. I'm the SEO specialist here at Anvil Media. I'm actually originally from Chicago. I moved here about 4 or 5 years ago, so I will be cheering on the Cubs today for the Wild Card series. And as you can see on the right, I have a pretty wide-ranging background. I've been working in digital marketing for over 8 years. I've held pretty much every position that you could possibly think of. And within each position, I've had to utilize analytics and AdWords for different purposes. I've had different responsibilities within each platform. So I've really developed a pretty full understanding of each platform. So I'm really looking forward to helping you all learn these. I've actually, probably for the past 3 or 4 years, I've specifically worked with small business owners to leverage both of these platforms. So I think this will be a really, really helpful training session for everyone. And then just something, another introductory about Anvil Media. We were founded in 2000, so this year is our 20th anniversary. We are headquartered in Portland, and we are a digital and integrated marketing services agency. So anything digital marketing related, we can help with clients. And then just some of our credentials. We're pretty proud of the top 2. So we are one of the top 3% of agencies that have earned a Google Premier Partner status. And 100% of our team here is certified in Google Analytics and AdWords. So we all have a very full understanding of both of these platforms, and we're able to provide very good guidance and recommendations to all of our clients. And so now we will jump into the Google AdWords portion of the training. So before I jump into the actual training itself, we have a really quick poll for you all just to get an idea of how comfortable you are all with these platforms. So if you could just really quickly answer the question of how far along are you with your account. If you haven't created an account, that's totally fine. This will just give me some more information to make sure that I give you the best training possible. So yeah, it looks like we're kind of at an even split between I haven't created an account and I've created an account, but I haven't had any ads running, which is totally fine. So thank you all for answering that. This is actually a really great starting point. So starting off, what is Google AdWords? So Google AdWords is the online platform that you use to display brief advertisements, service offerings, product listings, whatever you are trying to promote. The ads that you create get placed both in results engines like Google search, and I'm sure you've all seen ads on other websites, like news websites or things like that, mobile apps, and even videos like on YouTube. So this screenshot is just the basic interface of Google AdWords, which we will actually do a step-by-step campaign creation. So just hang tight for that in a couple of slides. The Google ad structure is formed with a kind of 3-tier hierarchy. So at the very top level, you have campaigns, which are essentially a set of 1 or more ad groups, and they share budgets, location targeting, and other settings that we'll get into in a little bit. Below campaigns, we have the different ad groups. So each ad group contains 1 or more individual ads that share similar targeting. So if you have different products or if you have different services that you're trying to promote, you would create different ad groups for all of those different products or different services. And then lastly, we have the individual ads that we will actually be creating. And so just to give you a better understanding of what this means, so if let's say you have an ad group for desserts, you would probably create a different type of ad for cakes. You might have an ad for pies, which would all then be part of the desserts ad group. And then this slide is actually more just for your reference. Once you start getting into Google AdWords and even Google Analytics, you'll probably be seeing a lot of these acronyms and probably hearing me say a lot of these acronyms. So this is just so that you have a reference to understand what we are talking about when we say these acronyms. So the ones that I would particularly pay attention to are CPC, which is cost per click. This is essentially a type of bidding that means every time somebody clicks on your ad, you are paying for each individual click. Click-through rate, which is how often people are clicking on your ad when they see them pop up. And then the last important most popular acronym that I would like everybody just to keep in mind is return on investment, or ROI, which is how much profit you've made from your ads. And there, with this slide deck, there is an appendix which just has a bunch of resources for you all, a bunch of links. And I've included in the appendix the formula to calculate return on investment. So once you have your ads running, or if you're trying to figure out, what budget you need to be setting, you can refer to that formula, which should help you all have really profitable ads. So moving on to the different campaign types. There are 5 different campaign types that you can create in Google AdWords. And the very first is the search campaign. So these are actually the ads that we will be helping you all build and optimize. Search campaigns are the ads that you see at the very top of Google or sometimes at the bottom, and they're very basic. They just have the heading, a little bit of text, and just the link to the web page that you'd like users to navigate to. Next, we have display campaigns. These utilize some sort of photo or creative element, and these you've most likely seen on external sites like news sites, or even even like shopping websites. So they're usually in the margins or in some empty white space on web pages. Next, we have shopping campaigns. These are very, very beneficial, obviously, for retail and e-commerce clients. They highlight very important features that people obviously want to know before they purchase a product. And these live, most of the times, these live at the very top of Google. Users can scroll through all of the different products. And so, like I said, if you're e-commerce, if you're selling specific products, these are really good ads to utilize. Next, we have video campaigns. These are those most commonly annoying videos that you see at the very beginning of the video you're actually trying to watch. If you're lucky, you're able to skip them. But yeah, you'll obviously, most of the time you'll see these on YouTube, and you can either have them as short or as long as you'd like. And then lastly, they're pretty self-explanatory, but the last type of campaign are app campaigns, which are for mobile apps, which these could be either on search engines or Play stores where you would get the app from. So like I said, we are going to be helping everybody create search campaigns. These are very, very basic. There aren't any creative assets needed. So these are really the best types of campaigns to create for beginners. So what you'll see on this slide is a breakdown of the different components of what an ad includes. So on the left, you'll see that the search that was typed into Google was Mother's Day flowers. And then on the right, we have 2 separate ads. So at the top, we have a bigger ad. At the very top of this particular ad, we have the display URL, which is your website. We have the ad title, description, and then we have a few site link extensions that have descriptions themselves. So the site link extensions really help to expand the amount of space that your ad takes up, so you're able to get a little bit more visibility. And then right under that, we have another ad for a Mother's Day flowers search. And this one just breaks down what the individual extensions are. So the very first type we have is seller rating, where you can see the gold stars and the average rating for that company. Then next we have structured snippets, which are important pages that you'd like users to see when they see your ad come up. And then the last is pricing. So kind of similar to those shopping ads, pricing is something that people, really take into consideration when they're purchasing a product or hiring a service. So we can include the pricing on the ad itself as well. So before we jump into the screen share of the AdWords campaign setup, over the years, I've learned some pretty important tips and information that I think is very valuable to beginners. And so it's really important also, I wanted to make sure you all know that after this training, we will be sending this deck out to you all. So if if you miss any of this, or some of these are confusing, or you'd like to do a little bit of a deeper dive, that's totally fine. You'll get this deck after the training has concluded. And we're also going to be doing some one-on-one sessions with you all. So at that point as well, we'll be able to answer any additional questions or help you really get your ads to where they need to be. So looking at these really important tips and information, the very first tip that I have for you all is really important. So when you finally create and launch your ads, it is very important that you do not go search for them. I know it's going to be very difficult. You're going to be very excited that you have an ad running for your business. But if you search your ad and you see it pop up, you're obviously not going to click on it because you know that's going to cost you money. And so what that means to Google is that your ad was shown to somebody, but they didn't click on it. So it must not have been a good match for that person. So searching for your own ads is counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. So once we have ads launched, do not go search for them. The second tip is that competitors cannot sabotage your ads. You cannot sabotage your competitors' ads. So what this means is a lot of small businesses that start off that I've worked with, one of the questions is, well, can't my competitors just click on my ads to run out my budget for that day and kind of sabotage what I'm trying to do? And that's not possible. Google monitors all of that activity really strictly. So don't be worried about any competitors clicking on your ad a bunch of times and running out your budget for that day. The third is when you are creating an ad, you want to really think about wording that would make you click. You also want to think about information that would make you ignore the ad. So we have some examples here. So this very top one, we see an ad for wall stickers nursery. Low prices on wall stickers nursery, qualified orders, whatever. So we don't really get a lot of information. There's nothing here that's really making me click. I don't know what these wall stickers are. I see nursery, but there's really not enough information there to make me want to click on that ad. Looking at the Miami Royal Coach ad, the only description that we have for this ad is not serving prom or school dancing. So again, I mean, even if I'm not, looking for driving services for something other than prom or school dancing, this doesn't give me a whole lot of information. And I mean, from my opinion, it doesn't sound like they're very friendly to work with. So I would probably move on and not click on that ad. And then this very bottom one, lobster and seafood best dinner out in Manhattan. Manhattan is spelled wrong. So obviously, if you have spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, that might keep people from clicking on your ad as well. So just some things to keep in mind when we are going to be helping you all create your search ads.
Rachel, can I interrupt you? There's a couple questions in the chat if you want to look at them.
All right.
The first one is from Caroline. It's using PPC.
In using PPC, we often see a difference between what Google says happened and what our website monitor says happened. So Google will say there are X clicks, and our website will say we considerably had fewer than X visitors. Why is that? So I will actually be helping you all connect your Google AdWords with your Google Analytics account. Sometimes if you keep the two platforms separate, that might cause some discrepancies in data. They're just two separate platforms. So the way that they acquire and process their data is a little bit different. So there are instances where Google AdWords says one thing and the website analytics says something different. So the best way to remedy that is to link the two accounts, which we'll get into at the very end of the training deck. But yes, if they're two separate platforms, sometimes just because they are separate, the way that they process, the way that they analyze data is just different. So that's why there might be some discrepancy there. The next one is, so it appears you have a limited line allowance for that initial description to appear. So yes, we will go into creating a specific ad and going through the setup of an ad itself. But with the title and the description, there are character limits to both of those. But you actually have a pretty good amount of space to get your message across. You just want to make sure that, yeah, we're using the right wording and we're using the compelling information. So awesome questions. Thank you. So going to the next one, number 4, competitor research is super important. I like to always advise that you use your competitors' ads to make better ads. So we can see what they're using for their headings, their descriptions, what keywords they're showing up for, things like that, that we can utilize for our own ads. Number 5, Google puts new ads into a learning phase. So what this means is Google puts your ad into this phase where it is acquiring information about how users are engaging with your ad. How many times when your ad shows up, do users click on it? Is the ad proving value to all of your users? So once your ad goes through this learning phase, it helps to adjust the way that Google AdWords has you bid for different keywords. And basically, long story short, you end up saving money because the more performance data that we have for your ad, the less money that Google will have you bid for keywords because they understand that your ad is proving value to people on Google. Number 6, as beginners, you do not want to overcomplicate the process. This training, like I said, is very basic, very straightforward. So really follow these steps that are discussed in this training to avoid getting overwhelmed or avoid getting confused while you learn and get comfortable with the AdWords platform. Number 7, we will get into this again when we go through the setup of a campaign. But one of the other ways that we can help you save money is running the ad during a set schedule. I always like to recommend business hours just because that way you will be, you know that your ad is running when your business is open. But again, we'll get into that in a second. And then last, number 8 is Google offers free certification courses for both Google AdWords and Analytics. They're free courses to take, and each step of the course has videos, articles, resources, and they're really good ways to learn more about the Google AdWords and get really comfortable with the platform itself. So before I jump into the campaign setup, are there any questions, any other pieces of information that I can clarify? Awesome. All right, so we will jump into the Google AdWords interface. So right here, this is what your Google Ads interface will look like. So we have all of our different types of campaigns on this left side. In this light gray toolbar, we can access our different ad groups, see our landing pages, any specific components of our campaigns that are running. Here is a quick dashboard of how everything is performing. And then at the very top up here, we can see, we can compare dates. We can see, if you have your ad running for a couple of months, we can see how the ad has performed month over month, or however you'd like to see, however you'd like to set up that date range. And then at the very top here, we have some additional tools. So we can search for different campaigns. We have different reports depending on, what type of information you are obtaining. And then we have tools and settings, which we'll get into in a second. And then billing, which is obviously, where you enter in your credit card information or your payment information. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to show everybody how to actually set up a new campaign. So to make this super helpful, if you have an idea of a campaign that you would like to run or you're thinking of running, if you could include that within the chat, and then we'll pick one to actually follow the steps and create a campaign for. So within the chat, if you have an idea for either a product or a service that you'd like to promote, type that in the chat, and then we'll see what we can create. So I know in one of the last trainings, we had somebody, we had one person who makes candles. We had one person who's offering daycare. Christmas web campaign, milk. Awesome. So with local art, could you be a little more specific? Are you trying to, is there any specific type of art, or maybe a little bit more specific information? Because local art, I think, would be a good one to go off of. That might be a good pool of keywords and information to look at. Co-op gallery, awesome. Cool. Okay, I'd like to create an ad for people with trying to get folks to come into the gallery. Awesome. All right, so let's do the art gallery. So like I said, before we do any actual campaign creation, we want to make sure we do our research. So Google provides this really helpful keyword planner tool to understand what keywords we should be including with our campaigns, what keywords our ads should show up for when people search different things in Google. So what we'll do is we'll click on this tools and settings, and we'll go to this keyword planner. And that's where we'll get an idea of what in the world people are searching in terms of our business, our product, our service. So I have no idea what keywords I want to be using for this campaign. So I'm going to click on Discover New Keywords. And so using just some very general terms, general topics that relate to my campaign, I'm going to type into here. So art gallery, co-op gallery, local art, and we'll start with that. And you can add as many as you want, but you want to stay on the more generic side, just to make sure you get a large pool of keyword choices that you can search through. So I'm just going to stick with those three, and let's see what we get. Awesome. So once Google finishes processing some information here, this broaden your search bar gives you just additional suggestions from Google as to what you might want to include within your keyword pool. So depending on what you're specifically going for with this campaign, I might just do gallery. We can do get results just to see again what happens. Art space, exhibition space. Just make sure whatever you're trying to accomplish with your ad, whatever makes sense. Museums might not make sense because this is a local art gallery, so I don't think I would want to include that. So I think we have a good amount to choose from. So let's scroll down. So this graph right here shows you how your choices of keywords have essentially performed throughout the year. So the top is just total performance, and then the red is mobile results only. So you can just get an idea of, when are these keywords most popular? When are they not most popular? Just to give you a little bit more guidance on, what performance you can expect when you launch your ads. So we'll scroll down, and here is where we get some really good insight as to what keywords we should use. So this very first column is the keyword itself. This second column is the search volume, or how often that search is typed into Google. The CPC, which is your expected cost per click for that keyword. So if somebody types in gallery, your ad pops up, and they click on your ad, you could expect to pay about 25 cents. And then the competition, which is essentially how hard it's going to be to get your ad to appear, and how many sites are competing for the keyword itself. So, ones with 0.89, that's a little bit more, that's a little bit less competitive. We have art gallery, which is 0.15, which is a little bit more competitive. So just something to keep in mind when we're looking at different keywords. And then again, just a trend, a different way to show the trend. So it's a little hard to see, but it's kind of, imagine it just a year-over-year look of, here would be January, here would be December, how that keyword performs over the course of time. So let's look and see what keywords we might want to include within our campaign. So definitely not National Gallery because it's local. So we'll keep scrolling. Art gallery near me, that might be a good one to include. We have a pretty high search volume. It is high competitive, but because we can specify what area this ad shows up for, we can accommodate this high competition. So I'm gonna make sure we include that art gallery near me. Let's see, art exhibition. Again, just depending on what might work best for this campaign. I think that just because it's a very generic, people might just, instead of searching near me, they might just search art exhibition. So I think I'll just include that one. We have some different artists. Art show, maybe not. Galleries near me, again, because it's a very local specific ad, I might include that as well. So galleries near me, art exhibition, art gallery near me, local art might another, that's like one of the main ones that we included. So keeping this keyword pool, I think will be a pretty good start for our ad. So this gives us a really good starting point for what we should include when we create our campaign. So we're going to click out of this keyword tool here and go back to the main screen, and we will get this campaign created. So very straightforward here. We just click new campaign. Wait for, there we go. All right, so because we are going to be helping everybody create a specific landing page for this campaign, we want our ad to get as many clicks as possible. So the goal that we would like to click for this campaign would be website traffic. And then, like I said, we are going to be creating a search ad. Very easy, very straightforward to set up. So click search here, and then we're going to continue. And then here you would enter in your business website. So that way your ad gets linked up to your actual business website. I'm going to leave that blank for now just because it's not going to be my campaign, but we can still set up the campaign itself. Perfect. So I'm going to designate a campaign name that's just really easy and straightforward to remember. So I'm going to do local art gallery campaign. And again, this could be something that's specific to whatever is easiest for you to remember, for you to understand when you're in your Google AdWords platform. So then moving on to networks. So the Google Search Network is results that show up on Google search results and any other Google sites when people are searching for your keywords. And the display network are any sites outside of Google, videos, any apps across the internet. So this is just important because our ads are strictly search ads. We don't have any creative components to our ads. So in order to really utilize our set budgets in the best way possible, I'm going to exclude this display network because I only want my ads to show up on Google search results. So I'm going to just unclick the display network, and then we will move on to some additional settings. So this is
Rachel, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
I should have interrupted a little sooner. There's a couple questions. Okay. Were you able to answer those regarding limited number of keywords? Relevant to many, or yeah, I'll let you go with it.
So you would want to choose. You don't want to limit yourself to where you don't have a good selection of keywords to choose from. I would say that more in this case would be better, just because you want to make sure that you are reaching your target audience. And so when you're in that keyword planner, I would say anything that you can think of, any topic, see what pops up, see what keywords show up, see what they cost, what their competitive level is. So that way you have a really, really good understanding of what people are searching and, how much these keywords are going to cost. But then when you kind of go into the competitor research, which I'll get into in a second, that will also give you a good understanding of what keywords to incorporate and what keywords to not incorporate. For example, if we type in art gallery and we see results on that page that don't really align with what you're trying to accomplish with your ad, we might not want to include that keyword. So to start, I would say when you're doing your research, keep it broad, so that way you get the full picture. But then once you start seeing, your competitor ads, once you start seeing how people are searching in relation to what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to promote, then we can start narrowing it down to a better selection of keywords. And in our one-on-ones too, we can help you determine which keywords you should include, which keywords you should probably not include. So that we can really help all of you in those one-on-one sessions. And then what are the units on the computer column? Let me go back. Actually, let's do this. Sorry if I'm jumping around here. I'm just going back to the keyword planner. And this actually is a good training moment. So if you have any keyword plans that you've created and saved, they will be right down here. So that way you don't have to, remember all of the keywords that you just typed out. So that's just reference. I didn't save the keyword list that I just did. So we'll just do a really quick one just so I can answer that question. Sorry, I did not see that pop up in the chat. The compute. Oh, so this is the just a competitive analysis. I think, is this the I think that's the
Caroline,
that was the question.
So this is one I wondered about, but how do you understand it? How is 0.04 different than 0.05 or 0.72?
Right. So this relates to this competition number. So this is just the percentage of how many sites are competing for the ad, how difficult the ad is going to be to get clicks for. So 0.04 and 0.05 aren't really all that different. So in this instance, I would refer back to the search volume. National Gallery gets a ton more searches, and it's really not that different of a competition level. But another thing too is the cost per click is so much lower than this National Gallery of Art. So that's where I would kind of utilize all of these different columns to understand which keyword I should go after. So, but to answer your question specifically, this column relates to the competition. So the 0.72 has a higher percentage or higher competition percentage. So it's going to be a higher competition landscape. So more people are competing for this keyword, more people are bidding on this keyword. So it might be a little bit more difficult to get clicks from. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Awesome, perfect. Cool, okay, so let's go back and create our ad. So website traffic and search. And we will hit continue. We'll do local art gallery campaign. We will unclick that one. And then let's open the more settings. So this goes back to one of the tips that I mentioned in the slide deck itself. This is where you would designate your your end date and start date for the campaign. So, or actually, no, I'm sorry, that's down in ad schedule. This designates when your ad will stop running if you have a set date in mind. So let's say if you have a specific promotion that runs for a month, and that's when you want your ad to run as well, you would set the start date to when the promotion starts, and then you can select an end date to when the promotion ends. So that way your ad just runs within that promotion and goes along with your business marketing strategies. So for this ad, just because I want to step through all of these different settings, I'm just going to leave this blank, but this is just something to keep in mind. If you have a set budget or you have a set schedule in mind, we can control when the ad actually runs. So we'll leave that how it is. Campaign URL options are just if you have a different tracking URL. These are some more advanced settings that I won't really get into, but just so that you're aware, we can add some tracking URLs and things like that to our campaign, but we'll skip that to get to this ad schedule, which this is where we can set when the ad actually shows up during the day. So right now it's set to all days, which essentially means that your ad will run, during all hours of the day until your budget runs out. The reason that I don't like to recommend that we leave this set to all days is if we have a set budget, a limited budget in mind, an ad schedule that's set to all days could essentially run out within the first 10 minutes of the day, the first hour of the day. And, for the rest of the day, your ad doesn't show up, which isn't really productive to what we're trying to accomplish. So this is where I like to recommend that to start, you set the ad schedule to your business hours. But that's just my recommendation. You could totally set this to weekends. You can set it to a specific day. Again, whatever works best for what your promotion is or what you're trying to create your ad for, and how it best helps get clicks from people on Google. So just for right now, I'll set Monday through Fridays. You can set, maybe 9 a.m. or actually, let's do. So this is the beginning of the day. So maybe I want to run my ads from around the middle of the morning to maybe I want to run my ad for like a couple of hours throughout the day. Again, this just is based on your time zone, whatever works best for you and your promotion and your company. So that's how we can save a little bit of money. And then moving on to locations, this is really important for all of your campaigns because we are focusing on local areas only. So obviously, this is set to all countries and territories, which definitely doesn't relate to what we're trying to accomplish. United States is a little bit more broad, so I'm going to click enter another location. And so this is where we can specify a state, we can specify a city, postal codes, and really get to our service or target audience to whoever we want to service. So I'm going to select, let's see what happens when we put in Lincoln City. So, here we go. So when I click Lincoln City, we can see that this will reach about 56,000 people. So this might be a good amount of people to reach, but maybe I want to reach a little bit more. So we can include other locations as well on top of this. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I know this wouldn't be applicable here, but we can try Cannon Beach. We can target them. So on top of the 56,000 people, we can add an additional 21,000 reach. So you can add locations, you can take away, you can target specific zip codes, whatever you're trying to target. So we'll just leave those two. And something to keep in mind too is you don't want to be so specific that you don't have a good pool of people to show your ad to. So, you want to include your business location itself, but also think about where your users are or where your customers come from. How far are they willing to drive to reach your business location, or if you're offering a service, how far are you willing to drive to reach your customers? So that's just a way that we can utilize better location targeting. And then when we get into analytics itself, I can show you an additional way to get a better understanding of where your audience is coming from. But we'll move on to additional settings here. So languages, we'll keep this set to English, but if your target audience, if it would be appropriate to include different languages, you can do that here. Audiences, this is similar to, I don't know if everybody here is similar or is familiar with Facebook, but if you have audience or users with specific interests, careers, things like that, you can refine your audiences or target your ads to these different audiences here. But for the sake of this campaign, I'm gonna leave this empty and move on. So we will go into budget now. So this is essentially how much you want to spend each day on your advertising. So unfortunately with Google search, we can't include a total budget. So like how much you want to spend for the entire campaign. We only have the ability to set your budget for that day. So if you have, if you are trying to only spend $100 total, what you can do here is maybe set your average budget to $10 a day. And then up where we have the start and end date for the campaign, you can set the end date to 10 days out. So that way you have that time frame of where you're going to probably spend about $100. When you set your budget, you want to think about the keywords. So when we were in that keyword planner tool, we had, the CPC column, which shows you about how much you should expect to pay for that keyword. And there's some other things that go into determining what's a good budget, like the return on investment acronym that we talked about in the deck. So if you're a little confused or if you're a little unsure about what your budget should be for your campaign, this could also be something that we talk about in our one-on-ones to make sure that we're getting the best use out of your budget and that your search ad will be as productive as possible. So if this part is a little, you're a little unsure about this part, just hold on until those one-on-one sessions and we could really get some good help for you there. So then we will move on to bidding. So what do you want to focus on? So again, we're trying to get people to click on our ads when they see them in the search results and come to our landing page. So I'm going to change this to clicks. So we are trying to get as many clicks on our ads as possible. And then I believe that's it. Yeah. So these are just some more advanced settings that we don't really have to worry about. And here are where you can set some of those ad extensions. So like we showed in the deck, we have, you have the reviews, you have some different site links, some different pages that you think might be important to people when they see your ad. For the sake of this training, we're just gonna leave these as they are, but something to consider when you're creating your ad, if there's things that you wanna include within your ad that might just give your ad a little bit of an enhancement. This is just something to think about. So I like what we have set up so far, so I'm going to save and continue. Awesome. So here is where we will start to create the ad itself. So remember, the ad group name is the cluster of ads that share similar settings. So maybe because we are focusing on getting some gallery visits, we'll do some an ad group name for gallery visit specific ads. And again, this can all be set to whatever makes most sense to you. This is just what I'm going to be doing for this. So keywords, we did local art gallery. We did art gallery. I can type right. Art gallery near me. Exhibition near me. And we want to include the near me searches or the near me keywords. Those had some pretty good search volumes, but because we are again trying to target a specific area, the customers within that area are probably going to be searching for an art gallery or an art exhibition near them. So I think this would be a good approach to take. But again, here is where we can also add some more broad keywords just to make sure we get a good pool of There we go. So you want to actually type them into this box down here. And then we'll save and continue. Awesome. So that just associated different keywords with the campaign itself. So now we will go and start to create the headlines and the descriptions for all of our ads. So when it comes to these different headlines, these don't really have a different level of importance. This essentially determines what information is going to show up where. So we have, just to show you how they will appear on these campaigns when we type them in, we can control how the ad will look when we fill these headlines out and some of these descriptions. But at this point, before I fill in any headings or descriptions, I am going to do some competitor research. So this is where you would want to go to Google, type in some of these keywords and see what pops up to understand what types of keywords your competitors are including in their campaigns, what their headings look like, what their descriptions look like, things like that. So I will do, and I'm up in Portland, so this might look a little bit different. So we don't have any ads, but what we can do is we can see some different headings that competitors use for their website itself, which might give us some good insight as well. So we have best art galleries, which might be a good one. Art museums and galleries, art museum. Again, we're not trying to really do art, Portland Art Museum. This might be, some of these might be a little different than what we're trying to do. So art, let's try to see what happens. So we have different artistic Portland galleries. Ooh. we can't, we're not really trying to target having people buy art online. So this one might not be a good one. Let's do art gallery. So, ooh, look at that. So we have Pacific artists, art galleries on the Oregon coast. That might be a good thing to incorporate. Explore Lincoln City. I like that one. It might be, that might capture some of the tourists that come through. So let's use some of that information. So this will just be the URL. So this would be the link or the page that you want users to land on. So this is just this is just the website or the landing page.
Rachel, there's another question in the chat.
Oh, awesome. So if you're aiming for a specific area like Lincoln City, which is made of several small towns, would you want to include keywords for separate towns or descriptors in case someone does a search for art galleries Taft? So that's where you would want to, in the location settings, you can incorporate Lincoln City, you can incorporate Taft, any of those areas that you think would be important to target, you can include within that location targeting. So yeah, I would recommend that if there's any of those small towns, any of those towns that are on the outside of Lincoln City, if those if you think that people would come to the gallery, I would definitely include those. Yeah, that's a good question. But that's where, yeah, too, within the within the headings and the descriptions, we can also kind of target the ad. Like I liked the one that said, explore Lincoln City art or something. We can do, because we're trying to get people to our gallery, maybe visit our art gallery, maybe, I'm not, depending on what the art type is, hundreds of exhibits to enjoy. Again, this is just depending on what's specific to your product, what's specific to your service. But this, I'm thinking of what I saw when I Googled these keywords, what some competitors had. And yeah, keeping in mind that we're trying to target people coming to the gallery itself. So I'm good with that heading. And then descriptions, again, yeah, this could be whatever you think would be best. So maybe stop by and enjoy artwork by, artist, whatever the artist name is, or however you want to form this. Maybe, family friendly. We can bring kids if there's groups of families that want to come visit. This is where, yeah, you would want to think about the details that would really get people to click on the ad itself. So this is just, yeah, you want to make sure you fill this out to where people would want to click on it. People would want to learn more about whatever it is we're selling. So just keep in mind that, yeah, we can tweak these, we can adjust these. And if at this point, I save this and continue and, the ad is launched, but I want to make some adjustments or I think of an additional keyword, you can always go back and make some adjustments, make some edits to whatever you think would be best. So at this point, I'm just going to save and continue. So that way we can see what else we can adjust. So you can't serve till we fix these issues. So let's see what is going on. So yeah, this is where this is really helpful because we can see, you know, okay, do we make a mistake when we are creating our ads? So check your campaign targeting to fix this. So we have our, let's see. I wonder what the issue is. I wonder if maybe we went too specific. No, we don't want to create a new ad. So this might be just an issue where maybe some of the location targeting that we included wasn't broad enough, or maybe some of these keywords that we chose were a little bit too specific. So let's try it. See what happens. Save art gallery, museums. We would want to take the museums out. Go save that. So I am not sure what is causing that. So at this point, if we have everything set up and the keywords are good, the targeting is good, we can actually publish the ad itself. So that's what we would do here. I'm not too sure what's causing this issue, but just for the sake of the training, we'll move on. So once you publish your ad, it will be visible within that very first interface. So we'll go back to that. So that way we can see, so if we have any ads that are running here, and you know, we're trying to just, if we were trying to just get an idea of what an ad would look like and we're not ready to publish it, or we might want to make some edits further down the road, you can always pause your ad. So as long as we have these ads that are paused like this, we won't be spending any money. So that's just something to keep in mind, where if we are, you know, if we're in there, if you're just trying to get comfortable with the platform and you're worried about accidentally launching an ad and spending money, this is where we can just take care of that, pause it, and we should be good to go. So looks like we have something in the chat. Are keywords case sensitive? No. So Google does something that's called a broad match, where if somebody capitalizes different letters, your ad will still show up for that keyword. If there is, if you know, for whatever reason, if there's multiple words within that keyword, and for whatever reason the user doesn't include a space, Google will still understand that that matches up to whatever keyword you're trying to have your ad show for. So they're not case sensitive. And yeah, there's a method that Google uses to match different variations of the keyword itself. So that's a good question. Would you want to actively use the pause function for seasonal ads? You want to reuse each year? Yes, that's a really good question. So if you are going to reuse the ad, that's a really good way to, just keep the ad within your campaign, but without deleting it. So yes, if you're trying to do just a seasonal ad, but you want to reuse it, definitely pause it so that way you don't lose any of that information. That's a really good question. Awesome. So let's jump back into the deck. And just as a really quick recap of what we just went through. So Google Ads is the platform developed by Google where advertisers create the advertisements to promote service offerings, products, or videos to their web users. Search ads are the most basic type and the best ad type for beginners, and the type of ad that we are helping you all create. To create your very first ad, you will need to set up a free Google AdWords account. It's very quick. All you need to do is enter in your email and password. Really, really quick, couple seconds, only takes a couple seconds. Consider the keywords that a potential customer would type into Google to find your advertisement. So really utilizing the keyword planner tool to incorporate the best keywords within your campaign. And then lastly, you'll want to fill out all of the headlines, descriptions for your ad, and set your campaign budget to fully launch your campaign. And so again, if you are really wanting some further guidance on creating ads, filling out descriptions, headings properly, you can just get into the platform, create your account, start understanding what the different settings and different parts of the platform itself are. And then once we get into our one-on-one, we can really help you create your best ad. So don't worry, if you're not ready to actually launch your ad yourself, we will help you in those one-on-ones. So similar to the Google AdWords portion, we have a poll for you all to take so that we can understand what level of comfort you all have with Google Analytics if you've set up an account. So take a couple seconds to answer the poll that just popped up. Looks like we have a couple more, but it looks like for the most part, most of you haven't created an account yet. Awesome. So again, that's totally fine. This is just so that I understand, how much you understand about Google Analytics. So what is Google Analytics? So this is the platform developed by Google. It's a web analytics service, and it tracks and reports your website traffic, user information, engagement information, and conversions, how many people have called, purchased your products, things like that. So the purpose of Google Analytics is to really get a very good understanding of how users find your website, how are they using your website, and are they actually converting, depending on what action you're wanting them to take on your website. So below are just some of the very basic questions that we can get answered using Google Analytics. And I will, when we get to the Google Analytics platform, I will actually show you how to answer and address all of these questions. But it's a very, very powerful tool that provides excellent guidance for all of our decisions on our website. And it can really provide a good guidance for our ad creation as well. So we will jump into some more information here. So like AdWords, Google Analytics has a set structure to it, and you won't really have to worry too much about this. This just is to give you just a better understanding of how the platform works overall. So at the very top level, we have your organization, which is your company name. And then below that, we have an account. So this is just the different access points for analytics. So one account might be for the marketing department. If you're a bigger business, you might have a sales department. But again, you won't have to worry too much about that. This is just so that you get a better understanding of what these different levels mean. Under account, we have property, which is your website or your app that you're trying to get data about. And then at the very bottom level, we have different views, which are essentially different reports that are defined by a specific view of data. So to give you an example, one view might be all website data, and one view might be only your AdWords traffic. And this just gives you a very specific look at the data depending on what information you're trying to get. So in the Google Analytics platform, you have access to 5 different reports, and they all provide data for all different components of your website. So at the very top, we have real time, which monitors activity as it happens on your site. So what is happening at this very moment? If there are users that are currently on your site, you can see what they're doing, see what pages they're visiting. And real time is also a very good tool to use to track progress on promotions, or to see if we have tracking code, tracking URLs that are working properly. I don't utilize this report too much, so I'm going to jump into the others to give you some better understandings of some of the reports that I think are a little bit more useful and beneficial to you all. So we'll go to audience, which tells you not only who your users are, but it really gives you a good insight for your website traffic overall. You can get specific user information like what device they're on, where they're coming from, even what their interests are. And this audience report is a really good tool to check in with frequently to see how your site is trending overall. Next, we have acquisition, which essentially is how your users found your website. Did they come from a certain social platform? Did they come from a specific website? You can also see what pages of your content rank very well, but which content or which pages don't get people to actually click when they see your website pop up on Google. And then lastly, we have, or second to last rather, we have behavior, which is what happens when users come to your website. How are pages performing? Do users read a page and then make a purchase? Do they watch the videos that you have on your site? Do they complete any downloads? So this gives us a really good idea of how users actually engage with your website. And then lastly, we have conversions, which is all of your goal completions, product revenue, and your sales performance. So are users placing products in their cart and then leaving, or are they actually following through and making a purchase? How many users made a purchase? You know, are sales up for the year? Are they down for the year? We can get a really good idea of how your business is performing overall. And again, we'll get into some more of these reports once we get into the analytics platform. But again, yeah, just to give you a really good understanding of how much information we can get from analytics. And then similar to Google AdWords, there's just a couple of some really important tips and information that I think are valuable to those who are beginners with Google Analytics. And again, you're going to be getting this deck after this training session. So you can always reference back to all of these tips and tricks. So the very first one that I love to recommend to people who have never used Google Analytics before is within those reports that I just talked about, you really can't mess anything up. You can't, you know, it's not like AdWords where we're spending money and we have to worry about, you know, if ads are launched or paused. You can click around in all of those reports and explore and just get a better understanding of what information you can get, how the platform works. So I always recommend just click around and explore, see what happens when you click on the different reports, see what happens when, you know, you adjust your data ranges, really get in there and just click around to get comfortable and see what information you can get from this platform. Number two is that Google Analytics is very powerful and informative and can provide guidance on digital marketing decisions. So we can see, like I mentioned, we can see where our users are coming from. So we can target our ads to a specific area. We can see, you know, what sites brought people to, what external websites brought people to our website. There's a lot that provides guidance on how we go about our digital marketing campaigns. Number three is to, my recommendation is to get to know the platform before utilizing features like segments and advanced views. I just don't want anybody to get overwhelmed or confused when we're going through, if you're trying to experiment with some of these more advanced views. So I always recommend just get comfortable with analytics before utilizing some of those features. And then number four goes back to what I mentioned about AdWords. Analytics, there is a free certification course that you can take. There's videos, articles, resources that really give you a full understanding of analytics. So just something to consider to get more comfortable with the platform itself. So now we will jump into Google Analytics, and if there's any specific data that you've always been curious about, if you're wondering if there's any way to get answers to some of your questions you've had about your website, you can feel free to include those within the chat, because I'm just going to walk through a bunch of those reports to show you how you can acquire some information about all of these questions. So does Google only track separate pages, or can it track within a page? So Google Analytics does both. So it tracks your entire website performance overall, but then we can actually go in and see performance on specific pages. You can see pretty much any type of performance data, traffic data, anything that you get from the entire overview to a specific page. So I can show you how to get some performance data on one page specifically. And then, are the Google Analytics accounts by domain, or if our business has 2 websites, would we have one GA account or 2? So if you have 2 websites, that is where you would have 2 different properties. So you can have one property for one website and a second property for another website. And we can, again, in our one-on-one, we can make sure that your platform is organized properly and set up properly. But that was a good question. So let's jump into Google Analytics. So when you first jump into the platform, this is the dashboard that you get. It gives you just a really quick snapshot of how things are currently performing. Users are just, the number of users that have come to your website within a certain period of time. Sessions are the number of users that came to your website and spent at least 20 seconds or more on your website. Bounce rate is the number of people who came to your website and then left without performing any sort of engagement or conversion. Something to consider with bounce rate is that an average number is usually around 65 to 75%. It's not something that we really, get concerned with unless we see it, in the high 90s. Then it's okay. Something might be, we might need to make some adjustments on our website. But if you're within, 65 to 75%, that's a really standard number. So not something to be concerned with. If you see it, around 79, that's still pretty average. And then session duration is just how long people stayed on your site for when they arrived. We can see right now that on the Anvil site, there are 2 active users. So that's where we can jump into this real-time report and see what's going on. So we can see what pages they're on, where they're coming from. Awesome. So the top active pages. So this is the page that the users are currently on, their locations. We can see they're in Troutdale. So that's interesting. That gives us just some further insight about our current active users. And then whenever you see this not provided, that just means that Google can't determine the information that they're showing. So I'm sure you've all heard about how Google and especially Facebook have been they're not really handling privacy in the best way, and so they're really trying to accommodate privacy and respect privacy. So some users might turn off the cookies, or some users might change their settings to prevent some of this tracking from taking place. So if that happens, that's just this. That's when you see the not provided. Is just Google can't give you exact information about whatever the topic is. So again, I don't really spend too much time on the real-time report just because I like to do deeper dives and make sure I get a full picture of performance overall. So I'm going to jump into the next report, which is audience. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So just to give everybody the quick overview of what is included within the audience report. this is where I like to check and see, how many people have come to my website. Are they staying on the website? Are they looking at different pages? Things like that. So here is the time frame of of the data that's being shown. So the August 31st through September 29th is the data pull from what you're seeing here. So we have the number of users that have come to the site throughout this time frame. And users is separated from new users by the cookies on websites. So if you ever go to a website and you say, and you see that little box that says, we're trying to understand and make things better for our users, do you accept cookies? That's what Google uses to designate new users from returning visitors. And then, so number of sessions per user, are users leaving my site and then coming back? Are they coming back for a second time? This tells me that they come once and then they might come back a second time, but usually they're only on our site one time. Page views is just, the number of times or the number of pages people looked at when they were on my site. Pages per session, when they come onto my site, how many pages are they looking at within that time frame? So on average, it's about a page and a half. Average session duration is, again, how long they were on my site for. And then, we already talked about bounce rate. So something I like to do with audience report is I like to do a month over month view to see how things have changed. So what we can do here is we can compare. And if I just wanted to do the entire month of August against July, for example, so I can set this to August, and then we can compare against previous period and just make sure that, we have July 1st through July 31st and hit apply. And then what will happen is we can see some comparisons here. So one second after it loads up, we can see, so in August, we had some drops in traffic. So we had some drops in users and sessions, but users stayed on our site a little bit longer than normal. So these are just some things that I can use to figure out, what adjustments can I make on my website. So this is where I say you can just explore, click and see what information you can get if you go, do a few months compared to maybe last year, things like that. You can just get a really good understanding of how users are engaging with your website. So that's the overview. I'm going to turn this compare off to make things a little bit cleaner. So let's say we want to see where are the users coming from when they come to our site. So what we can do in this audience report is we can go down to geo and then we can hit location. So this we can use to really to utilize within our paid search ads. We can see, so if our users who come to our website are in a certain, specific area, we can utilize that information to make sure we're targeting the right people. So you'll see the map up here, but what I like to do is I like to go down to the table. So what you can do is you can actually click on the specific location. So we'll click on United States because that's where I'm trying to target. And again, we get the list of specific states, but we can go even further and see where in Oregon people are coming from. So we have the most popular area is Portland, but we also have some Beaverton and Eugene users. So again, maybe these are some of the locations that I want to include within my ad to reach the correct people within my ad campaign. So something else, let's see, who are your users? So we can see kind of creepily, we can see this gives us kind of a general overview of what our users are interested in. And so this is where, depending on what campaign you're trying to run, depending on what you're trying to promote, we can maybe incorporate some of their interests, some of their employment, things like that within our campaign. So this is when it gets a little bit creepy because Google can really track a lot of information about all of us. So where does this data come from? That's a very good question. So the short answer is like the sessions, page views, all of that comes from the cookies that, that Google uses. So if you land on a site for the first time and you get shown that box that says, we'd like to make your experience better, do you accept the cookies? And you click yes, then that's how Google kind of tracks all of this information. When it comes to interests, when it comes to location is most likely your IP address. So the IP address of your computer or the location of your phone. And then interest is most likely obtained from like social media, or there's some different components that go into the demographics and interests, but that's why it's always kind of creepy, because Google can get some very specific information about you all.
So Rachel, there's a question, where do they get this data from, or how does Google obtain this?
Yeah, so that's where I was just saying. So like social media, what you're actually searching for on Google. So when you're on Google and you're searching for information, they take that into account. Purchases, yeah. So even I know Google purchased, this is going to creep everybody out, but Google purchased Nest. I don't know if you're all familiar with the Nest thermostats and like smoke detectors. With that, Google can understand when you're home and when you're not home, what you do when you're home. So even like the Google Home, the voice assistants, how you're communicating with them, what you're asking them for, what information you're asking them for. So all of those tools and platforms is kind of what filters into these demographics and interests. Yep. Very creepy. Yeah. Yes, definitely. So that's just kind of an overview of audience. Again, yeah, I just recommend click through all of these, see what information you can get and get comfortable. That's essentially how I really got comfortable with this platform, is I was just clicking through and seeing what information I could get and how I could answer all of my questions. So we'll move on to acquisition. This is how did your users find your site? So again, we'll just go to overview to give everybody an understanding of what we can get from this report. So this is what will pop up when you navigate to the overview. So the different methods in which users arrived at your site, those are divided into channels. So organic search is just strictly somebody typed in a keyword or was doing some sort of search on Google or Bing or Yahoo, whatever, and found your site that way. Direct is if a user came to your site directly from either typing in your business URL within the search bar, or even like if they were served some sort of like email campaign and they clicked the link to the website, that would get included within direct. It's most commonly though attributed to the users typing in your actual business name within the URL bar. Referral means any website that brought users to your own website. So if they were on like a news website and then maybe found an ad of yours and then clicked through, that could be counted as referral. Social is just that it's, Facebook, Instagram, social platforms that brought users to your site. And then, yeah, we can even include filters to really to include, paid search traffic, email traffic, and then like I mentioned, so this other category is any information that Google cannot provide a specific answer about where that traffic came from. So this could be somebody that turned off, the cookies, or there was some reason as to why Google couldn't, attribute this to any specific channel. If someone gets to your website by clicking a hyperlink in the text of a Facebook post or Reddit post, what does that count as? So if it's from Facebook, it's most likely social, but sometimes depending on just how Google Analytics processes the traffic, It might jump into referral, but most likely social. And then Reddit would definitely be, under referral. And I think that was the last question. So let's say, yeah, let's try to think if, I want to see what websites did users visit that brought them to my website. So I will go to all traffic and channels. And then because I'm trying to figure out what website they came from, that will be under referral. So I will click that. And once I click that, these are all of the websites that brought users to my website. So like the one question, if somebody was on Reddit and saw a link to your website and clicked it, it would be within this source column here. Did they come from a specific social platform? So let's go back to all of the channels so that we can look into social. So let's click social. And we can see that the top platform that brought users to my site was Facebook. So if you're active on social media and you're trying to understand if what you're posting is bringing people to your website, this would be a good place to check out. Another question that a lot of website owners want to know is, what pages are actually showing up on Google? Like, are my pages actually ranking? And so what I can do is go to the search column and click on landing pages. And so this column is these are all of the pages that brought users to my website. So these are what showed up on a search engine and were clicked to bring users to our website. So so impressions are just the number of times that page was shown. And then clicks are obviously if the website was shown, did users click on it? So what this is telling me is users are seeing this page, but they're really not clicking. So there might be some adjustments I can make here. Yes, and then the backslash, thank you, Corey. The backslash is always the home page. So when you're in your own analytics platform, whenever you see just the backslash or backslash like that, that's just your home page. And so what we can do here is I'm trying to see what pages are ranking, what pages, are further down. So the average position you can see here. So anything that's above 10 is on the first page. So when using something like Twitter, if you post a link using a truncated version, does that count as social media, Twitter, or general referral? Oh, that's a good question. I believe that is still social because Google understands the difference between coming from a social platform. And I've never seen, because we use some of those tools here that shortens links. And I've never seen that affect how the traffic is sorted. So if it comes from Twitter with a truncated link, it's most likely counted as social. That's a good question. So like I was saying here, we can click on all of these columns, and this will sort the sheet according to whatever we're trying to get more information about. So like I said, I'm trying to figure out which pages are ranking very, very well. So I've sorted it so that way all of the landing pages that have an average position of 1 show up first. So I can see here that a lot of my blog posts rank very, very well. But they don't get a whole lot of sessions. So again, this just points out something that maybe this is an area that I need to look at into my website. But let's also think, maybe I'm trying to figure out which keywords actually brought people, or which keywords showed my pages on Google. So we can actually click on some of these. So let's click on the home page. And we can actually see the keywords that brought users to my website. So we see marketing agency, social media marketing agency. So this might be another way for you to figure out what keywords should be incorporated with your paid search campaigns. And whenever I do these landing pages, search queries for landing pages, I like to open this up to get just a better pull of data, just because I feel it's always a little bit more accurate. So again, yeah, experiment with all of this, but you'll see some of we might get some additional queries with additional data that will really help us create better campaigns. So all of that can be found within this acquisition report. And once we link your accounts, we can also get some really good information about your Google ads themselves. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So we'll move on to behavior, which is what happens when users actually come to your site. So let's click on this overview and see this. So we'll start, again, page views are the total number of pages that were viewed in total. Unique page views are just how many pages were viewed one specific time. I always just refer to page views though, just to avoid any confusion. Average time on page is how long a user stays on a page. So I always like to tell people if they see, a minute or a minute and 30 seconds, immediately that might seem like it's a little short, but if you time yourself and if you go to a website and time yourself to see, how long you actually stay on a page for, a minute and 38 seconds is actually a pretty good chunk of time. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, if you see something, like 10 seconds or something, that might be, something to consider, but a minute and 38 seconds is actually a pretty good amount of time. Again, we already talked about bounce rate, and then exit is just the number of people who landed on your page, completed an action, and then left. So just a little bit different than bounce rate, but I usually just focus on bounce rate and then move on. So this is just our list of pages by page, or sorted by page views. So which pages are getting the most views? But maybe I want to understand, when users come to my site, what journey do they go on? What pages do they view? So we can click on this behavior flow, and this might seem a little bit overwhelming at first, but again, once you start getting a little comfortable with this, you'll get a better understanding of what this graph is showing us. So this shows us, where users navigated to when they were on our site. So again, the backslash is the home page. So the very first page that users most likely see is the home page. The next page that they most likely visit is the contact page. So to me, that's actually a really good sign, because users are reading the information on our homepage and then navigating to a page to actually reach out to us. So to me, that's a really good journey right there. Another page they like to visit is the About, Careers, to see if we have any openings, and then an About page to learn more about our company. So you can really see a really good snapshot of the journey that people take when they come to your website. And again, just experiment with these. You can zoom in, you can change this to different pages, things like that, just to see what happens when people come to your site. So let's see, just overall, how many of our pages are actually valuable to users. So like I said, we can sort this, how many pages are getting viewed, but we can also see, are there any pages that people just don't really spend a whole lot of time on? And a lot of our blog posts have a good chunk of time, but that's to be expected. So we can open this up. So if we show rows, we can show just additional pages here. And it just looks like this is a lot of our backend code that really doesn't have any cause for concern. But we do have a couple of blog posts here that are getting zeros. So maybe they're just older, or maybe the topic didn't really resonate with people. So again, just something to consider, and just another area of information that you can get from these pages. So that is site behavior. And then lastly, we have conversions, which again are essentially your sales performance or your conversions. So if you want people to call, if you have people fill out a form, or if you have an e-commerce setup to where people are supposed to be buying products on your site, that can all be tracked here. So the Anvil site, we are doing a lot of readjustments, and we're actually building a new site. So a lot of these conversions and goal completions aren't getting tracked. But if you had, we have some form fills, we have contact us. So this gives us a really good understanding if, like if we've been running a promotion and we want to see, did that really help our overall sales? We can open, make sure this matches whatever the time frame of that sale was. We can compare this to the previous year. Are we up for this summer season or are we down? You can just get a really good understanding of how your actual business is performing from your website. So again, we've been doing a lot of tweaking on our goal completions, a lot of tweaking on our conversion. So this looks like it's really, really bad, but we're building a whole new website. So a lot of this stuff doesn't match up. But again, just so that you know, when you're in analytics, this is just a very valuable tool just to see, how are your sales and leads doing from your website. And then we don't have an e-commerce setup on our website for Anvil, but if you have an e-commerce setup and we have this implemented on your site, this is where you can see which products are actually, which are your top products, which products do people not really tend to buy? Are people putting products in their cart and then leaving? How many people come to your site without ever, purchasing a product? So you can get some specific information there. So like I said, I've said this a few times, but as long as you're within these reports, there's really nothing you can mess up. You're not adding budgets. You're not, you're not going to break anything. You're not going to break your website. So really click around in all of these, see what information you get, experiment with the date ranges, things like that, to really get comfortable with analytics. Before I jump out, are there any additional questions? Anything else any other pieces of information you're curious about of how to get information for? No, awesome. All right, so let's jump back in. So the last part of, oh, hey Rachel, this is all great. Something I spend days on. How much time would you expect business owners to spend on this realistically? Or what is the most important data if we don't have that is a great question. So I would just say, if you're doing this like a day-to-day check-in, I would suggest that you maybe spend like 5 to 10 minutes just really getting a pulse check on, your traffic. If you have conversions set up, see what, if you see different conversions just to see, how many phone calls did I get in that day? So I would just use like a quick 5 to 10 minutes for a pulse check. Once we get into our one-on-ones, we can actually help you. Analytics allows you to set up. So that dashboard that we saw when we first jumped into analytics, you can customize that based on what information you'd like to check in on, what information is most important to you. So you can adjust that. So that way you're not spending time clicking through all those reports and, trying to find answers to your questions. We can customize that. So that way, you see that information right there, you did a quick check-in and then you can move on. So yeah, I would just say, if you're just doing a regular check-in, just like 5 to 10 minutes, that should be fine. That's a really great question. So just as a quick recap, Google Analytics is the web analytics platform to track and report your website traffic, user engagement, and conversions. We went through the 5 different reports of real-time, audience, acquisition, behavior, and conversions. And you can utilize each of these reports to obtain valuable information about your website and even your paid search campaign. So before we jump into the last chunk of our training about linking these two platforms, are there any last questions about analytics? Awesome. So this part is actually really, really quick. We are just going to be talking about linking your Google AdWords to your Google Analytics account. So obviously we saw in both of those platforms, you get a really big chunk of data from AdWords, and then you get a really big chunk of data from analytics. So why would you want to link these two accounts? So when you get data from Google AdWords, that is specific to the ad itself. So how much did you spend on the ad, the keywords that people, which keywords were most valuable, all of that stuff. But if you sync it to your analytics account, you get the next steps of, so once users actually clicked on your link, what happens? So are your campaigns attracting the right users? Which keywords actually generated the most revenue? So if, we included the local art gallery, did that lead to several people, converting on our website somehow? So it's a really good idea to link these two accounts because you just get that much more information about your ads and how the users engage with your website. So that way we can really make adjustments in the best way possible. So for this portion, I'm just going to provide the list of steps because this is something that has to take place on your end. So here we just have the list of steps for you to follow, but we also have just a step-by-step visual list to follow. So that way, if you're in the Google Analytics platform and you'd prefer to see like actual screenshots, this is where you can reference. So if you are in Google Analytics, you click on that gear link. So this was at the very, very bottom. And once that admin panel pops up, we are going to click on this Google Ads link. And so when you are linking a Google AdWords account to your Google Analytics account, it's really important that they share the same username and password, or else you won't be able to link them. So for example, like if I am linking Rachel's AdWords account to Rachel's Google Analytics, I would need to use the same username and password that I use for AdWords that I use for Google Analytics. So when you click on the link the AdWords button, so you will see this pop up and you just check because we're an agency, we have a few. So with you all, you will just see one ad account pop up. So you'll just want to make sure that's checked and click continue. Then you can name the link itself. This is just so that AdWords is linked to your analytics account. So you can name it something like Google Ads account, whatever makes sense to you. Can these accounts be linked into a G Suite account? So kind of, so these are actually within a G Suite account, but you can pretty much all of the tools that are within G Suite can be linked together. So this kind of goes into a little bit deeper dive, but even tools like Search Console can be linked within Google Analytics. So technically, yes, these can all be linked within the G Suite account, but not to the specific like G Suite account. It's the individual platforms that are linked, if that makes sense. So then we have under these views, you just want to make sure these are all turned on. And one of our last sessions, somebody didn't have this raw view, and that's totally fine. We have the raw view because we have some filters and we have some advanced settings taking place. So that's why this has popped up. So again, if you don't see this, that's totally fine. You just want to make sure that all website data is turned on. And then you also want to make sure that share my analytics data with linked Google Ads account is checked, because that way analytics and AdWords will pass data to one another. So that way you're just getting the best pull of data possible. And then you just click link accounts and you are good to go with syncing the two platforms. So again, it's really, really straightforward, but If you do have any problems, or if you are confused or something didn't really work out, we can help you in the one-on-one sessions to make sure that we get these linked properly. So at this point, if you haven't set up your AdWords account or your Google Analytics account, make sure you do those because we can then help you in the one-on-one sessions. You can either try to create your search ad, or you can do the like initial steps of your keyword research. Think about what headings or descriptions you might think would work best. Do some competitive research. But if you actually don't want to launch your ad just yet, this is something that, again, we can help you in the one-on-one session. And then the next step for you all is to try and sync your AdWords account with your Google Analytics account. And then you guys should be good to go. And that is all I had for this training session.